Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to One Cup of Japan. This is the live version of the normal show. Didn't really need to say that. We are here back in Sabae City this morning. I say back because the One Cuppa that was posted on Patreon yesterday and will go live on Facebook. Why did I say Facebook? On YouTube tomorrow was shot in my new city of Takefu. This will be one of the last 5 or so episodes, including live streams, of One Cup of Japan that is filmed here in Sabae. Well, that's probably not true, but at least for a little while. Just got a message from YouTube that I just went live on YouTube. We're gonna do our best here this morning on this stream. As I mentioned on Twitter yesterday, we're supposed to get another sort of heaping of snow. Maybe in the background here you can see there's a bit of snow here on the ground. In the One Cuppa that will go live tomorrow, you'll see sort of like Takefu in the middle of this kind of snow, and we're supposed to get a lot today and tomorrow, and it's just literally started as I hit the play button. I'm getting a rooster effect to my hair here, so that's all good. First of all, of course, this is the first live stream of 2021. So happy new year to every one of you. I am not one to, I don't really, what can I say? I very much appreciate the sentiment behind the idea that the year is going to change and suddenly things are going to be better, and then it marks some kind of departure and all that kind of thing. But realistically, I do not believe that just because the day changed from December 31st to January 1st that suddenly things are going to be grand again, you know, that kind of thing. God damn. But that said, I am hopeful for you and for myself that there are good things ahead. So let's move forward with that intention, I suppose. So happy New Year to all of you, and I hope it is a good month, good year, a good future for you all. That said, I want to keep it kind of light today, because last time we spoke it was basically just me talking about the corona situation and how that's going to affect things like immigration, and also talking about gender politics isn't the way I want to phrase it, but anyway, talking about an issue about getting rid of outdated gender ideas and that kind of thing. But today, even having said that, I would be remiss if I did not mention what is happening in Washington, D.C. I'll be completely honest with you. When I saw the news of the Capitol being stormed this morning and Confederate flags and white crosses being hung in the Capitol building, my response was initially anger, and then it was to cry. I have had a complicated relationship with the United States. Hey Andrew, what's up, man? Good morning. Good evening, I suppose, in your neck of the woods. I've had a complicated relationship with the States and all of that since forever, basically. But it doesn't mean that I hate my country by any means. I don't. But it is an embarrassment. It is a shame. It is saddening. It is maddening to see symbols of literal racism and hatred being flown in the Capitol building. And where I will end this topic is to say it speaks volumes to know how many people who don't look like me. Hello, Himitsu, how you doing? It speaks volumes to know how many people who don't look like me were killed or injured or treated poorly over the summer simply for speaking about wanting equal human rights. And yet you have these people who do look more like me, who can go and literally assail the center of our government, and basically nothing happens to them. So I am ashamed, I'm angry, and I want the United States to show that it is what it claims to be at least once in a decade or 20 years or whatever. And that's where I'll end that, because I don't want this, excuse the wind by the way, as I said the storm is picking up, I don't want this just to be about that, but again, I would be remiss if I didn't say anything about it. So jumping from that into, guys, give me just a second, I'm going to try and get some kind of some building cover here so we can get out of the wind. Oh, and it is cold wind today, my friends, let me tell you what. But yeah, jumping from that heavy, terrible subject into something a little more fun. Are any of you familiar with a cormorant? I believe is their name. Hello everyone, by the way, if I don't see you hop in, please go ahead and say hello. When I am on YouTube Live here using my phone, I can't really see when everybody has jumped in, so please say hello so I can say hello back to you. We are at the river here. This isn't a river so much as it is a glorified irrigation ditch. But anyhow, there is a bird that is called a cormorant that I saw a documentary on like 10 years ago or something like that. And the documentary was talking about how kind of a traditional way to do fishing in parts of China was to use a cormorant. And these birds, they're something like pelicans. They don't really look much like pelicans, but they have kind of like that elastic throating. One cup of Japan, talking to you about birds. And what the fishermen did is they would tie like a rope, loosely I suppose, around the throat of the cormorant, and then the cormorant would sort of jump off the edge of the boat that it and the fishermen were kind of hanging out in, and the cormorant would go and grab fish because it wants to eat them, and then it would try to swallow it, but of course the fish would get stuck in its throat because there's the rope tied around its neck, that kind of thing. And then of course the fisherman would take the fish, and then it would give the cormorant a little bit of reward, and then it would just sort of carry on like that, right? It's this kind of symbiosis, I suppose. And in parts of Kyoto, actually the Kamogawa, if you go to, God, I hope it's the Kamogawa, if you go to the Arashiyama part of Kyoto City, which is sort of famous for things like the Arashiyama Monkey Park, that's where like the famous like bamboo forest is, and there's like a UNESCO World Heritage Site there for, oh God, I forget the name of the place, but there's this beautiful old temple, I want to say. And anyway, near there is, or at least there was, an area where you could board kind of like these old, long skiff style, almost sort of like canoes the way they look, but and you could kind of take part in this kind of cormorant fishing, because it turns out that cormorants are native to Japan as well. I don't know if they're native, but at least they're here, and they've been here for a while. And the reason we're talking about them now is because I just saw one when I was walking to get this here Cuppa, because I was sort of rushing to do everything this morning before the live kicked off. But it's really, really cool to see them in in person like that, I suppose. Of course, nobody's using them to fish. This one was just wild and hanging out, and nobody's tying a rope around its neck. But anyway, there you go. And why we're talking about birds, but we are. So as you can see here, I don't know how it is in your guys' neck of the woods, but for example, in New York, outside of Rochester, outside of Buffalo, those areas. You hear my Rochester accent when I say Rochester. All of the snow that is collected by like plows and stuff like that goes to like this giant ass building, usually near like the highway or someplace like that, where it's all collected into giant mountains. But what happens here, and if we go that way, I'll show you, but is all of the snow is collected in giant mountains, for example, in parking lots of supermarkets, or like to a lesser extent down there, the mountain that I just showed you. And so it's not uncommon to see like these mountains of snow into like April, because it just takes forever for them to melt, and it stays pretty cold here for pretty long. So anyway, just an aside. What was I gonna say? A topic. I have a topic today. I want to ask you guys about collectibles. We're all over the place with our topics today, but such is the way of things. I want to ask you about collectibles. First, I suppose, to start off, what are some things that you collect? What are some series that you look for? New things, old things, and why do you like them? Hit me with some comments so we can have a conversation here. Waiting for the traffic to go. Walking along. All right, well, to avoid dead air, I suppose. The reason I'm asking you about collectibles, Star Wars and Halo. Yes, the Halo makes sense given your love for hopping around in a mini version of Master Chief's buggy. Anime merch. When you say anime merch, is there any series in like particular that you like? Show you too much because there's a gentleman putting his garbage out, but today is garbage day. It's the one of the garbage stations, I suppose you could call it. Subway City is cool because there's not like a ton of rules, like for, well, I say cool, but cool's not the right word. It's convenient in putting out your garbage because they have like a very advanced garbage facility, I guess, where they sort things kind of automatically there. Whereas opposed to the place, the new city, just like, you really have to separate the shit out of everything. It's real annoying, but also can't be helped. Silver spoon. I'm gonna go ahead and level with you here, Andrew. I have heard of Ranma and Toradora. I tried to watch Toradora, I think, before, and I couldn't get into it. But Spice and Wolf I haven't heard of before. So I'll have to check that out. But Silver Spoon I'm a big fan of. I think maybe we've talked about it before, now that we bring it up. But anyway, the reason why I'm asking you about collectibles, Rise of the Shield Hero, that's another one I'll have to look into. The reason I bring it up is because last week when we did the stream, I showed you a little bit of my new office in the new house. And basically I'm trying to populate it with things. And oh, that wind is chilly on my fingers. I was gonna say, so basically I've been trying, my collection habits have dwindled a lot, but I spent a lot on rare metal CDs from the 80s and 90s. Oh, that's cool. Do you still have a lot of those CDs that you put money to? I mean, do you still have the collection, I guess, or did you, as your sort of collection habits dwindled, did you kind of sell those things off? So I've lived in an apartment for 6 years, not the same apartment. I lived in my first one for 4 long years. I hate Leo Palace. And then I moved into my place place that I still have now, it's quite a bit larger, but still I knew that it was sort of temporary. And I went through this phase, which I'm still in to an extent, where I didn't really want to accumulate too much shit. But also part of it was just, as I say, just didn't have any space for collectibles. Here's a murder of crows, each one of them the size of baby Targaryen dragons. You can see up here, there's a beautiful house up to the right here. Come here. And one thing that I found to be true now is, now that I have my own space that's completely dedicated, where it's literally, I mean, of course people can come in and use like the desk or the computer or whatever, but it's my space, right? What I say goes. Splice and Woof is great, you should definitely give it a watch. That makes sense. I did much of the same, Himitsu, when I moved here. Like, I just sold off, well, my car and a bunch of other stuff to finance moving here. Click vinyl. Yo, that's awesome. Vinyl is something I've wanted to get into. I have just a couple records, and I've kind of recently, not too recently, a year or so ago, I picked up a old record player. That's cool though. Well, your mom's taking your collection. Does that mean she's guarding it for you, or she's gonna absorb it into her own? But as I'm saying, I'm trying to make this space my own, because it is my own space, and it's the first time in, you know, a decade that I've had space that's my own, and I have enough space that I can kind of put stuff I like in it. And so one thing I've been looking for recently is basically stuff that I had when I was not sure. I see. What was I saying? Oh, so one thing I've been doing recently is sort of scouring, looking for things that I had as a kid, some of the things that I had to sell off to move here and that kind of thing, and regretting my lack of foresight. And actually the other day, when I was home in the new house for the new year, I found that there's a really great like mom and pop model shop, which, by the way, I love building Gundams, plastic models. And just recently, I get record player, so I have a few things I get depressed every time with disc unit. There's that. Yeah, well, that'll tie into our conversation nicely. That'll tie into our conversation real nicely. But so I found this really great model shop, and they also had some really old toys, like, and not just Japanese toys, but American toys. And one thing that they had was like Todd McFarlane's Spawn stuff from, like, you know, the early 90s, mid 90s, that kind of thing. And at that time, and even, I guess I never really read Spawn. I thought the movie was cool. When I was young, I thought it was cool. Now if I watch it, it's a different story. But so I liked the story of the character. I thought he was interesting. I mentioned in our recent video about Kimetsu that I liked Todd McFarlane and his art and that kind of thing. And so seeing that was really cool. But anyway, what I found that I really liked was in like the early 90s, when the X-Men animated series was released. In the States, it was on, Fox Kids, I think, right? Saturday mornings. And at that time, a company called Toy Biz had the, I'm sorry guys about this wind here if it's too bad, but it's real freaking chilly. A company called Toy Biz had the license to make the goods for the X-Men and that kind of thing. And so those were a lot of the things that I played with when I was a kid, because when they came out, that was 93, 94, I was, 6 or 7 years old. And so that was right around the time, when I would have been playing and things. Weird sentence. Anyhow, but when I went to this toy store, I found like this pack of, to be honest, completely obscure X-Men characters that if you don't really read the comics or something like that, then you probably don't know who they are, but their names are Longshot and Mojo. It doesn't really matter who they are, but The fat one is the fat yellow one is named Mojo, and he runs like a casino world thing in another dimension, and then the character Longshot is like his enforcer who turns good and all that kind of thing, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I read those X-Men comics. But anyway, I found like this die-cast metal, like, 2-inch size 2-pack of these characters and I had them when I was a kid, and it was 200 yen, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm a big boy, I can buy my X-Men if I want to. And so I did. But the reason why I'm talking about it is because it started me down like this line of thinking, right? Because that purchase ultimately was one of nostalgia. Because I don't really care so much about the characters, but I knew that I wanted to kind of start populating my office at least a little bit with some things that I had when I was a kid that I liked. And there is a company here. And I want to say that maybe it's not just here. You gotta love the contrast of this green moss with like the gray, snowy world around us here, eh? There's a company here called Mercari. It's like an online reselling platform, right, for people who just want to get rid of their old shit. And you can also sell like handmade goods and all that kind of thing on there. And so my intention was to first contact my father and see how many of my things that are still in the house, and then to see what kind of things I actually wanted I could find on Mercari. And so I went on there, not expecting much. And to be honest, there's quite a large selection of Toy Biz, Mattel, Hasbro, all that kind of stuff from like the early 90s, early 2000s, all that kind of stuff. And so that was really great to see. And some of the things that I was looking for were like things from the Spider-Man animated series, some of the Kenner, Star Wars stuff, again the X-Men stuff, that kind of thing, Michael Keaton, Batman kind of stuff. And first of all, what shocked me, and this will tie into what Himitsu said nicely, I think, was the price. Because like there are like Cyclops figures that are out of the box that are missing like there was a Cyclops who at that time his uniform was completely blue with like a big broad white X on his chest kind of thing. And for some reason, I don't know, it was kind of something that happened with a lot of toys at that time. They needed to give like every character some kind of an accessory, right? Like Cyclops doesn't have an accessory, he just goes bzzz with his eyes. And that's all he needs to do, But at that time he had like a shield. And probably they did this so they could just sell a bunch of variations. Now that I think about it, right? One has a shield, one has this paint scheme, the other one doesn't, blah, blah, blah. Probably no different from today. But anyway, out of the box, missing this weird shield thing that he had. And I think it was selling for like, 1,600 yen. Oh, the color got real crazy. Contrast went nuts there for a second. For like 1,600 yen. It's like, oh, that threw me for a loop. And, this kind of repeated itself. And then I found some really good things that had some decent prices too. Like, again, the Toy Biz line I was talking about, like really good condition, like Wolverine, that was like 1,600 yen, about the same price as that other one I was talking about. So I picked that up. But anyway, the reason I talk about it and how this ties into what Himitsu was saying is that, it shocked me and it kind of upset me how much these things were going for despite their condition. Well, our contrast is really just going nuts. But then, given the price, and I knew because as I've talked about, I'm trying to start a business, also I'm moving, so I just don't have a lot of liquid cash. And so I had to make some decisions, and it made me think about, okay, well, what do I really want, and what really like is kind of like an important serious to me and that kind of thing, versus what am I just buying for the sake of nostalgia, right? Which is what, for example, those die-cast toys that I mentioned at the beginning really turned out to be. I mean, I'll hold on to them, of course. I think it's cool, and it reminds me of my child and all that kind of thing, but probably I'm not going to do that kind of thing again. But then, oppositely, where like one of the things that I sold some stuff on there, and sort of the deal I made with myself and my partner was like, okay, if I'm gonna buy any collectibles right now, it's only going to be stuff, it's only gonna be from cash that we make selling on Mercari, that kind of thing. Which turns out just to be kind of some elaborate barter system, basically. But anyhow, what I really was happy to find was a Batman animated series, probably like 10-inch figure with like a cloth, like the cloth costume uniform suit, and from 1997, in the box, still never opened, still in great condition, for 2,500 yen, and that's something that means something to me. Creatively, that series means a lot to me. Even now, I still will rewatch those episodes. It's a beautiful series. Yeah, Himitsu, that's exactly it, right? Like, because it is now, I don't know if you, I'm sure you've seen this Himitsu, but for those of you watching, usually Mercari works where when you buy something on there, you can, I think you can pay for it like by credit card, or you can go to the convenience store and pay for what you bought there. But I don't know when the feature was added, but there's this, basically now it's a credit system. It's called, what is it? Ato, yeah, the button at the bottom says, Ato burai de konyu suru, or something like that it says. Which means buy it after, kind of thing. And if you click that button, you're introduced to this system called like Merupay Smarto Borai, which means Mercari's, their built-in pay system, their built-in smart payment system, basically, which means if I buy something today, even if I buy like, $200 worth of things, then I don't have to pay for it but until the end of next month, so the end of February, which is dangerous, right? Some dangerous business. And I assume what they do is that the company then will cover those costs. They'll probably pay that money forward to the seller, and then once I pay that amount, then Mercari will be made whole, kind of thing, right? They act as like a middleman, like a lender, I suppose. I don't know what to call it, financer. I don't know what to say. Whatever. So that is an entirely dangerous thing to see. So actually, to be honest, that's how I bought this Batman action figure I was talking about yesterday. He's not an action figure, right? He's an action figure, whatever. But again, I have like about 8,000 yen that I'm just waiting to be deposited in my account because things are sort of in the mail that I'm shipping to people who bought them. So it all works out in the end, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, so that's been an interesting thing, I suppose, just to examine like all these things that I thought I loved, right? Like I thought I loved Deadpool, and I never read Deadpool when I was a kid. Like sometimes he would pop up in like in the comics I read because I loved Wolverine, and again I loved the X-Men and that kind of thing. But in like my liked items, right, like my e-net page, if I went there were like so many Deadpool things in there, and I was like, okay, going back and examining this yesterday, like do you really want any of those things, or do they just look cool and whatever? So anyway, that's the end of that conversation, I suppose. Nothing too important, but yeah. Oh God, guys, it is cold. I think we're gonna go down this little side road up here and start heading back to my place. We're gonna finish our cuppa and we're gonna end it because my fingers are starting to move on from like burning cold sensation to no sensation, and that's not a good thing. So let's just continue on our way here. Oh, and the coffee has gone from hot to nice and chilly as well. So we are at the end here. As always, guys, if there are some questions, comments, or concerns that I can help ameliorate for you, then please go ahead and speak them now. I really get this because I feel like it's difficult for me to invest in collecting in my because I want to be really sure what to invest in before I start. Yeah. Same, Himitsu. Like, I'll address this in a second, Himitsu. But yeah, if you have any questions or anything that you'd like me to answer, please put them in the comments now, because we're gonna wrap up. But yeah, what you were saying, Himitsu, like about wanting to be sure it's like a good buy, that kind of thing. That I suppose that's a good sign of maturity. And it's something that I've been trying to be careful about too, is like, okay, checking the price and then checking around for like what's like an actual value, and really trying to check like really minute details. Like, for example, that Batman I talked about, I'm sure probably at some point there will be, or has been, like a reprint, or whatever you want to say, like a resale of those things that were made in like 2010 or something like that. But I don't really want that. So just like zooming in and trying to see on the package like what the production year was on it, and then checking around the internet for what the value is. And of course thinking about in like a couple of years, like if, for example, I'm like, okay, you know, I become completely destitute and I need to sell it, like is it something that reasonably I'll be able to sell back, that kind of thing. Which is what has me so worried about the fact that now most of the collection that my partner and I have accumulated is Kimetsu, because I love Kimetsu and it's great. I love the series a lot, but given the volatile nature of fandom here, I think, like I'm remembering when I moved to Japan, and I think it was just Yokai Watch was still really quite popular when I moved here to Japan in 2014. I think maybe I was at the tail end of its like boom in popularity. But I remember like then we moved into 2015, and I think I sang, oh god, this wind. I think I sang like that Yokai Watch song, you know, Yokai, 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 Wachichi, that thing. And one of my kids looked at me with just such disdain and said, "Furue," right? That's old. Get over it, old bitch. Like it's done, kind of thing. And so, for example, investing a lot in anime stuff seems to be not a smart choice for having a collection that's actually worth anything. Dragon Ball, of course, is a big exception, I think. It seems like Dragon Ball will just be valuable and popular forever. So anyway, but guys, that's where we're gonna end, I suppose, because I'm just really freaking cold. And the coffee's now like I just bought it fresh from a restaurant, an iced coffee kind of level of cold too. So but yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. Some housekeeping things to mention. Next week there will be no stream, and there will be no new 1 Cuppas. This is the last 1 Cuppa kind of thing of the season until the first week of February. I have to kind of shift my schedule that I'd planned for content production and podcast making to the beginning of February because of everything that has to be done for this business. So it's just, there's just no time. I apologize, but there will be 1 Cuppa Clips episodes and that kind of thing. There will be streams starting from next week, so 2 weeks from now, but as I said, next week there will be none. On that note, thank you guys always so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please be sure to check out my Patreon and my other videos, and I'll see you all soon. Stay warm, stay safe. Love your faces. Bye. Off button.